For my Wisconsin Teaching Standard 1 and 2, my main goal was to improve effective math strategies for secondary special education students. I'm currently co-teaching a Algebra A class. Algebra A is regular algebra in high school that is broken down into 2 sections. So typically freshmen who are really struggling with algebra will go into Algebra A, and then their sophomore year they would move into Algebra B. I have about 15 different special education students requiring various different needs in the 2 different sections. The classes are about 48 minutes. Some of the classes, the teacher and I had put the kids together in a group, so I was able to walk around the room and support them depending on their various needs. My main goal was to help these students develop self-confidence and competence. For sure, from what I've recognized in freshmen, is they come up to high school, and a lot of them are very not confident with what they've done in the past. 8th grade, middle school, they don't have to necessarily get a credit to pass. In high school, we are credits, obviously. And so for these students, having credits, earning credits is a big deal. A lot of these high school students just aren't comfortable with being able to do their algebra as best as they can. And I feel like helping them instill that confidence in them will only help them in further along in their education as far as algebra goes. So I came up, after my research studies, I've come up with a couple things. We've all heard of PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Some mnemonic device that they've been using for years to help them understand algebra. And so I thought furthering that idea of a mnemonic device was a good idea. I found a few different things. For this one, I came up with the SOLVE strategy. So the S stands for study the problem. The O, organize the facts. The L, line up a plan. The V, verify your plan with action. And E, evaluate your results. Many times, and especially since we have implemented Chromebooks into our school this year for a 1-to-1 ratio, I find that kids will rush through things just in order to play on their Chromebooks or get that extra time because they are done with their work. Finding that time to slow down and really think about what they're doing and grasp the idea of the concepts and the problems that they are trying to understand is really a kind of a struggle that teachers across the board, especially with freshmen, we found this year. So getting them to look at that problem just a little bit longer, spend some more time on it and understand it to their full extent was kind of like it was a thing that we had all agreed on was something that we needed to do. So for my artifact, I used, the kids have been learning about generic rectangles. Typically, with the SOLVE strategy, it is for story problems. We haven't gotten to story problems yet, but I think just going through the steps, if they could at some point memorize what SOLVE stood for, and going through the steps and just looking at their work more closely, slowing down, spending a little bit more time on it would help these kids immensely. So for the direction of the sheet was multiply each together using generic rectangles. So we would take the 2 k plus 3 times k plus 4. This is the distributive property. And we put this into a generic rectangle. K and k here, k squared, 3. And we would come up with k squared plus 4k plus 3k plus 12. So I would have the kids look at the problem first. The directions say multiply each together using the generic rectangle. So we need to put a rectangle down or they would lose points for that. They could like that. Organize the facts. So what are we doing next? We're going to put our numbers around the rectangle where they belong. Line up a plan. They would say, we're going to multiply these in the rectangle and come up with it. And then our verify our plan of action, multiply them all together. And then this is the big one for me, is evaluate your results. Many times they'll just get the problem and move on to the next. It's a hurry cycle, and I'm really trying to get them to just take a second look at it and do it again. So I would have them go, and what more could we do to this problem? We have the k squared plus 4k plus 3k plus 12 while combining like terms. A lot of kids that I've especially noticed with my special education high school students, they kind of just skip this, and eventually they will get points off when it needs to be simplified to its lowest. So I would say, well, we could evaluate our results. What do we look at? What could we do? We could have put k squared and then added the 4 and the 3 together, which would give us 7, and then 12. And then circle that final problem, because I think a lot of that is just kind of seeing the problem done to its fullest extent, and then have a teacher or we usually come around the classroom and we'll circle it, and that means that they have it correct, so it's automatically correct. So again, part of my teaching standard was to improve effective math strategies for secondary special education students, and I think a lot of that with the students that I work with is primarily getting them to slow down, look at these extra steps that are in place, and then figure out what to do from there. And that is all I have for you.